All right, welcoming on to the show here, Joe Cook from Inside Texas. Joe, thanks for giving us the time. You are down in Austin covering the Longhorns. What is the vibe right now? We're just going to dive right into what's the vibe right now heading into this season that's supposed to be filled with all of these expectations for the Longhorns.
Yeah, a lot of excitement. Texas thinks that it can go really far this year, and with a guy named Arch Manning playing quarterback, painfully close, as y'all saw last year. Maybe a different story at the goal line, and we're talking about some different things right now. But Jack Sawyer picked up the ball and ran with it, and we know what happened after that. But real excited about Arch Manning here in Austin, just after waiting 2 years behind two players in his first year, and then Quinn for a lot of last year. He stuck around. He stayed the course with Texas, and now is going to be the starter on that Longhorns offense. And then the defense, they think that they can still play to a really high standard here in 2025. They really like what they have in Michael Taff, really like what they have in Anthony Hill at that middle linebacker spot. And then it kind of all starts with Colin Simmons there, who's going to be one of the best pass rushers in the country. So they feel like they're a top dog in the SEC again. They feel like that number one is deserved, and they feel like they're ready to advance past the college football semifinals.
So let's start with the offense. If you look back at the Jack Sawyer play, the people involved in that play, Quinn Ewers is now gone. Cameron Williams, I believe, the right tackle, is now gone. So is the left tackle, Kelvin Banks. Jack Sawyer is now gone. 8 defensive starters for Ohio State off the roster, 4 offensive line starters for Texas, the quarterback also. And then one of the running backs, Jaden Blue, who caught 2 touchdown passes in the Cotton Bowl, if Ohio State fans remember, they're all gone. This is entirely new. This is not just a rematch like we see in the NFL where you play an epic playoff game, they put you on opening night. These are 2 vastly different teams. Where has the Texas offense improved, do you think, from what we saw last year from them? And where do you think that they might take a step back?
Yeah, I'm excited about the running back room. CJ Baxter's back healthy, missed all of last season. And, you do the whole like, oh, he's coming back, he's improving, he's all that. By all reports, he is back to what he was. And he was a Jonathan Brooks backup as a true freshman in 2023, took over a lot of responsibilities at the end of the season, and was showcasing a lot of great stuff in camp last year before his injury. Excited about him. Quintravian Wisner, who I know Ohio State shut down last year, but was a 1,000-yard back across a 16-game season, and someone who earned a lot of trust and a lot of accolades from the Longhorns. Christian Clark, another running back who was lost for the season last year, going to be a redshirt freshman. Excitement about him. And then Jarrett Gibson, who saw a good amount of action. So they think they may have a little bit more juice between the tackles now, because neither Wisner nor Blue were all that great at that part of the role. But they are missing maybe that home run threat in Blue, maybe missing a little bit of the receiver out of the backfield. Not to go too long on the Arch Manning part of it, but they feel like there's going to be different strengths. And by the end of Quinn Ewers' career, he was deadly accurate in the mid-game. He was great at making the right decisions. Any pass about 15 yards and in, you weren't going to see messed up, and you understood that the offense was going to be in the right spot. But those downfield throws that are big parts of Sark's offense just weren't there at all. And that with a limited run game and a limited downfield pass game, it was just one of those situations where Steve Sarkisian had to manufacture a lot of different ways of getting yards just to get some offense. Arch Manning, I think there's a lot of confidence that he can do the mundane pretty well. We got to see him operate pre-snap right. Not to say that he won't, but we got to see him do it. We got to see him do it in front of a hostile crowd. He got some snaps at Texas A&M, but just some snaps. He didn't start. And we got to see him complete that deep pass. That's one thing in Sark's offense that just with Quinn Ewers has been way more hit or miss for his liking. And now at this point, there's a confidence and a hope that you may see him hit those bombs like he did against Mississippi State and against ULM last year. Tight end has Jack Endries at top, Cal transfer, wide receiver. A lot of faith in Ryan Wingo, DeAndre Moore, 2 guys returning from last year who got a lot of catches and are going to see their opportunities increase. But that O-line, what I've been saying in the offseason is, for as difficult of a situation it is to replace 3 draft picks and then your center, an undrafted free agent who has the school record for most career starts, you're pulling from, as teams at this kind of station in the sport do, third and fourth year guys who have been in your program for a while, working under the same offensive line coach. And if they're not that, they're pretty highly touted recruits. And you got a mix of everything left to right. Trevor Gooseby going to play, stepped in for Banks and Williams, like you mentioned, at the end of last year in the playoffs against Georgia. Did not look out of place of the slightest. Left guard, Neto Umeozulu, fourth-year junior, kind of the last of a seven-man offensive line class to really see some extended action. Has had some good weeks in training camp. Center's going to be Cole Hudson, and no, he's not a returning starter in the preview mag sense of the word. He started a bunch of games at right guard his freshman year, rotated over the past 2 seasons at right guard to where he's got a handful of starts, but he's got a amount of snaps, so maybe he's seen starts and double the amount of games. Right guard's DJ Campbell, fourth-year player, only returning starter, big expectations for him. And then right tackle was a little bit of a question heading into this season. It was supposed to be a camp battle between Andre Kojo, third-year player, and Brandon Baker. Kojo tore his ACL, or saying some sort of season-ending knee injury in camp, so it's going to Baker. And Baker was a top, I think, he was a top 40 prospect within the class of 2024. So, yeah, replacing 4 guys is not easy. But I think kind of like we talked about a little bit in the offseason, even though these guys aren't starters, it's not like they've totally been out of action or only saw, the MAC games, the bye games, stuff like that. Like these guys have seen some snaps in real games. It's just not at the volume of a starter.
I'll make sure not to take that MAC comment as a pejorative. As a MAC grad, I'll just go ahead and tuck that one away. The funny thing about these top matchups, Joe, is Ohio State fans, if you follow recruiting, know every name that you just listed. Like Brandon Baker, Ohio State wanted him really badly, and Texas held him off and secured that signature there close to signing day. It wasn't really that close, but Ohio State really did push for Brandon Baker, and Texas ended up getting him. Ohio State fans know that well. Stop me, Ohio State fans, if you don't know these names. Jamie French, Dalen McCutcheon, Kalik Lockett, Michael Terry, Ryan Wingo. Like DeAndre Moore, I think is a little bit of a different story. He was a good recruit, but not somebody Ohio State was really in on. Arch Manning's going to be throwing to ridiculous weapons, even if they're young or unproven, if they start rotating some of these guys. And I don't even know if they will do that because Wingo and Moore are so good. But the passing attack, you're talking about more downfield. And I look at the roster of guys that Arch can throw to, and we're not even going to really get into Arch a lot because I think everybody just kind of knows what the expectations are there. But like, it seems like he's got everything he needs to be successful. And he's got the keys to the Porsche. All he has to do is drive it, but also he might be like a ridiculous driver. Like he might be really, really good in himself. So like, where do you see this passing attack? And do you think that that's probably the strength here? I know you like the running back room, but man, I look at those weapons and that is a loaded group of receivers.
Yeah. And I think in the big games Texas has played in the past 3 or so years, you've seen them, still, even with some of these great offensive lines and experienced offensive lines, like getting push against the Georgias, the Ohio States, even Michigan, aside from like a one play on a 55-yard end around, like they weren't getting much in the run game. They found it in the pass game, and they found it in multiple ways, throwing to the backs, throwing to the tight ends, throwing to the receivers, doing a lot of, motion and other things to catch the defense's attention. And this is their wide receiver core that I think can do that. Ryan Wingo did a lot of athleting last year, not a whole lot of wide receivering. I know there's a big three of obviously Jeremiah Smith, Cam Coleman, Ryan Williams. This is a guy who could kind of enter that conversation. He's got the 6'2", the 215, some of the fastest miles per hour on the team. But he would get beat at the top of routes, and he would get beat, just trying to make plays to where he was a slants and screens guy, and he did that really well. But this is a year where they need more from him as a receiver. DeAndre Moore, this is a player who at that slot receiver position has kind of been a lineage that went from Jordan Whittington, who is one of the most respected players on the team, currently on the LA Rams. And DeAndre Moore basically followed in his footsteps, followed in his shadow, got into a starting role last year, had a lot of big catches. In fact, one of Arch's, not his first touchdown reception or pass, but one of his biggest ones, that one against Mississippi State right before half at the far corner of the end zone. That's one that a lot of people remember, and he's been kind of a vocal leader on the team. You'll see Texas go into 12 personnel a lot, but if they stay in 11, Parker Livingston, who is from the same high school. Lucas Lovejoy as a Peyton. I'm going to forget this. The linebacker with a thick neck for Ohio State, Peyton Pierce.
Yeah,
That's
Pierce.
right. Same high school. They kind of look similar. But Livingston's tall, 6'4", 195, has good speed, and has been a little bit of a revelation over the course of camp. So Steve Sarkisian keeps a real tight wide receiver rotation. It rarely gets past 5 just because of the personnel they use, all different sorts of personnel packages, because of his preference to keep the main good players on the field. You may not see another guy except for, and I don't even know if it's him because Sark said he was limited today, Emmett Mosley, a Stanford transfer. Not sure who else you might see. Maybe Dalen McCutcheon, a true freshman, also from Lucas Lovejoy. So you're probably going to see those receivers. And then at tight end, Jack Endries, the Cal transfer. Texas had 3 straight really good seasons of tight end play between Jatavian Sanders and Gunnar Helm. They've had, both those guys have been draft picks. Both those guys have been key parts of the offense. And I think you can see a little bit of stylistic, not athletic, but stylistic comparison between Endries and Sanders, someone who's going to catch pretty much everything around him over the middle. May not be as good after the catch as Sanders, but it's going to be that classic safety valve for someone like Arch. So, this is a team that if you go back and watch that Michigan game, and Michigan's problem, sure, as y'all know, wasn't defense last year. They figured out how to ball control and just play keep away. Again, from a Michigan offense, they didn't need to play keep away from, but they could retain possession, keep the Wolverine defense on the field. And they did it through the pass game, not so much through running the ball, and running right over them. And, until further notice, I don't think we'll see Texas run right at you and run over you, just because that hasn't been their strength yet. And this may not be the offensive line to do that and just move fellow 4- and 5-star guys out of the way on a regular basis.
I also think it's interesting that you're giving Sark 7.5 months to prepare solely for one opponent. That's a little scary to me. If I'm Matt Patricia, I'm probably sitting back, wow, we got to figure something out. Because he did that with Michigan last year. And, Quinn Ewers was dialed, and I loved what they did with Helm in that game. For my money, I think the 2 tight ends in this game, Max Clare and Jack Endries, are the 2 best transfer tight ends maybe we've seen. I'm trying to remember other transfer tight ends from the past few years of the transfer portal. Endries is awesome. Mm-hmm. And I think Claire's really good too. So, that's kind of box office stuff for the sickos that like to get into the weeds on stuff, the tight end matchup there. Let's flip over to the Texas defense. I thought last year Ohio State and Texas had the 2 most athletic defenses in the country. I think Ohio State has gotten more athletic, even if it lost a lot of its experience. I think Texas may have as well. Like Jalen Gilbo can be a great player. Malik Muhammad can be a legit great player. Leona Lufau, I think I said that correctly. Anthony Hill, Colin Simmons, Ethan Burke, Cole Brevard, like these guys are so good. I think it's going to be so fun to watch Ohio State's offense against Texas's defense. What's the rub right now on what you're hearing about this Texas defense, and what are you expecting?
Yeah, there's a couple big battles with guys that are based off guys who departed and off to the NFL. So Jahdae Barron, Thorpe Award winner, cornerback, first-round pick, he goes to the NFL, and then they move Jalen Gilbo, who was at nickel, outside the corner, similar to what Barron did between 2023 and 2024. So it means you have Muhammad and Gilbo most likely on the outside. Michael Taft once again returns in the back end. Jelani McDonald, who was kind of everybody's backup at safety last year, he's going to get the starting nod, and he may move down. And this brings me to the next point, down to play star. They like being pretty versatile at that star spot, to where if they have maybe, I don't know if it'll be against 12 personnel, but maybe in like a running situation, no matter what the personnel is, they may bring Jelani McDonald in there, who's 6'2" and 205. If not, if they're trying to figure out, okay, this is a passing situation, we need more coverage on the field, then the guy who has kind of taken the reins at star is a true freshman from Tampa named Grayson Littleton. Just someone who came in and worked over the course of the offseason. Some good, remarks about him throughout spring, but it's like, okay, he's just playing well. And then summer, he takes off. And then preseason camp, the first practice, we got a little window, and he was number 1 out there. So that was impressive to see. Derek Williams is that other player at safety alongside Michael Taft. recovering from a knee injury, getting mostly back. Just a real range, a player who knows where to be. He may not be the most, I guess, athletic with it in terms of ball skills, but like finds the right spot, finds the right fit, and was really playing good football right before he got hurt last year. Linebacker, you mentioned Leonga Lafau, Anthony Hill, two top flight players who you feel real confident in, third-year players. Behind them, you have Trey Moore, who played a lot of edge, was at UTSA. Bring him over. He was ahead of Colin Simmons last year, and they're going to give him a little bit more multifaceted off-ball on the edge role, just not pigeonholing him for one spot. Ty Anthony Smith, or actually a sophomore now, another player in that linebacker core. So another place they feel good. The pass rush is going to be it may be the best part of this team. Colin Simmons is a bona fide, probably top 10 player in the country. Just going to be somebody who's shaking Roger Goodell's hand really early. Weak side for the most part, but they move him around on some passing down situations. Opposite him, senior Ethan Burke made some plays last year in that Cotton Bowl, made some plays, even had a pick six last year earlier in the season, has started a little bit in his sophomore year, kept going, split some time last year at that strong side end position, and then now the spot's his. But the question, and it's kind of similar to that offensive line. It's like, okay, you go from Moro Ojomo and Keandre Coburn, two NFL players, to Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy, two All-American first-round pick or Outland winning players, to Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton, who are both, I think, picked really early, or one's picked in the second round and one's picked really early in day 3, I think it is. So can you get that for 4 years in a row? And can you get it from the portal again? They brought in Hero Canoe, who's had a great training camp. He may start alongside Cole Brevard as kind of, 3 technique nose. And then they have this just wide array of guys, but I don't know if any 2 of them are just transcendent, but all of them in succession are probably good enough to play and stay fresh and keep going. Alex January played a little bit. It's the guy that drew the personal foul against Travion Henderson last year.
I wonder what he said there. I don't know. Trayvon's the most nice guy, Bible guy you'll ever see. I don't know what Alex January said, but man, it really got to Travion.
So you've got him. You got Travis Shaw, who's a former 5-star for as good as that is, coming in from North Carolina. And then after that, you've got Murad Watson, a player from Syracuse, freshman All-American by a couple outlets, can kind of play up and down the line. I think there's one more I'm forgetting, and it's going to bug me. Let's see. Canoe, Brevard, Shaw, January, Watson, and it'll come back to me. But that's 6. I think I got it. It's going to be 6 guys. They really feel confident and that they can have enough guys playing out there who are just not going to be a black hole whenever it's like, all right, time to get this group on. And then they just see duo about 5 straight times before the next group gets back on. Like they feel like they're going to be okay. A little bit of a wild card is 5-star Justice Terry. He is an athletic freak, but he's 270-something pounds right now. Like he's not somebody who's going to play defensive tackle on standard downs, but you'll still see him out there probably on passing downs, maybe a little bit in some defensive end roles, and just part of a bright future for a Texas defense and a bright present.
Seems like they restocked that defensive tackle room. It's still a little uncertain, but I mean, 5 guys from the portal, like you're going to probably hit on at least 2 of them. And that's got to pain Ohio State fans to hear that Hero Canoe could start against them, because he was one that they did not want to lose. And I think he might be in a heavy rotation at Ohio State had he stuck around. The Sark versus the Ryan Day thing. What's the feel on Sark right now after 2 semifinal appearances, very, very close in both games. I think they threw for the win in both games. Or I guess threw for the win against Washington, threw for the tie against Ohio State.
Right.
And are basically 2 plays from being in the national championship game in back-to-back years. I was actually rewatching that Texas-Washington game for some reason this summer. And it's just like, man, they could have been in the national championship game twice in 2 years. Like, that's kind of crazy. What's the feel on Sark right now, though? Because the two losses to Georgia last year, gotten really close, but obviously not good enough for what they want. How do Texas fans feel about him heading into this kind of all hands on deck, not make or break, but a little bit national championship or bust kind of season for the Longhorns?
Yeah, I think people want to move past the semifinals.
Yeah,
It's great to get there. This program over the past couple of years, and even kind of starting in 2022, is starting to climb into a place it believes it should be. It's obviously made use of some changes in rules and in changes in the sport that are conducive to what Texas has, both in its fan base and its donor base, and with its administration. And Texas also has made sure to keep Sark around for whatever NFL or Alabama flirtations, as strong or as weak as those were. They made him a $10 million man. Like, he's not going anywhere unless he like really, really wants to chase a Lombardi trophy. And I think Texas fans feel good about that. And that's not even a certainty also. They have the same defensive coordinator, Pete Kwiatkowski, had a lot of great defenses at Boise State and Washington, the playoff defense for Washington before DeBoer and Penix showed up. And it's just a lot of continuity for a program that, when you go all the way back from that 2013 to 2014 season, a long time ago, Mac Brown retires in air quotes. Charlie Strong comes in, and there's just new something every single year. There's a new coordinator from 14 to 15 for offense. And just so on and so forth. And Tom Herman tries to keep things pretty similar first 3 years, and then 2020 he flushes everything and starts over again with new coordinators. And then 2021, Sark shows up and he has a 5-7 season. And I know Texas had reached punching bag status, and it was nice to hit that burnt orange thing on the ground again for a lot of people. And there are probably a lot of players in scarlet and gray, because Texas was like that for most of the past decade. But they keep continuity, they keep the coordinators, they keep moving forward. They take advantage of the system in place that allows them to compete in different ways for recruits and maintain a roster in different ways. And it's just a lot of just positive feeling. And yeah, you can look at a coach and a play call and wonder why he called a toss sweep against Caleb Downs inside the red zone, but that's the place they've put themselves in. That you can finally start asking, oh no, why did you make this decision in this college football playoff semifinal game? A few years ago, we were asking about why you made this decision in order to get to overtime against Texas Tech or something like that. Like, it is just a way different spot for this team right now, but they want to advance, and Sark wants to advance. They all want to advance, and they want to advance while they have what they believe to be a special quarterback like Steve Sarkisian there, or excuse me, a special quarterback like Arch Manning there for this year. I know there's been a lot about next year. It's not guaranteed. If 1-1 comes calling, I don't care if it's the Browns, the Saints, or the Panthers or whatever, like 1-1's coming calling, that's tough to turn down. So you got to make the most of Arch Manning this year, and you got to make the most of what should be a very talented defense yet again.
So now I'm looking at the Ohio State roster, and I'm seeing all of these guys that I'm sure Texas would love to have, and I rattled off plenty of guys that Ohio State would love to have from the Texas roster. I mean, I look at Peyton, like I like Peyton Pierce.
Oh boy, let me pull it up too, and I can start going over names that I know for sure were offered. And I mean, even we can start at Julian saying, like, if Arch Manning doesn't commit to Texas, there's a very good chance Julian saying that the Longhorns are one of those teams competing with. I think obviously Ohio State recruited him, or else he wouldn't have gone there after a week in the portal, but was competing with Alabama and was competing with USC. Like, those are definitely teams that players that Texas was recruiting against. I can probably find. I mean, I know they offered Jeremiah Smith. You'd be crazy not to. Devin Sanchez, that's somebody who I remember Ohio State, the way it was worded by Eric Naleen was that Ohio State recruited him like a 5-star senior when he was a 5-star sophomore. And, that's just someone that they spent a lot of attention on. Fahim Delane, I know they offered. I know that's a high-quality player. CJ Donaldson, his old position coach is Chad Scott. They were just at West Virginia together. And I thought, okay, maybe there's something. Nope, he committed to Ohio State in short order. Just looking through a little bit more. Let me Control F Texas and see. Who else pops up? James Peoples. I know Texas didn't recruit him that hard. They offered him. They had him at camp. San Antonio's not far down the road, but he took advantage of an offer to go to Ohio State. Riley Pettijohn, another player Texas wanted really bad, super athletic for his size and probably one of the best linebackers in the country in his class. Ohio State wanted him more than Texas did. Peyton Pierce, we talked about a little bit. It seemed like he was always an Ohio State guy. And then Ethan Oenawa. Oh, that's I think Texas fans, if they could have a do-over, they would go and try to get the Rice transfer during this past offseason. And I know the Buckeyes are real happy to have him, especially after Texas had a good experience with Calvin Anderson as a Rice transfer about 7 or 8 years ago. And now, Texas, they have good starting tackles, but their depth is real questionable. And Ethan Oenawa would be a pretty good addition to that Texas roster, but Ohio State made the most of that one.
So Ohio State actually, I don't know if he's going to start. They really love what Philip Daniels has given them on the right side of the offensive line. He's a Minnesota transfer from Ohio, and then they've got Austin Sareveld starting at left tackle, who's one of the captains of the team. So Onyanwa might end up being like a swing guy for them, and just not a depth piece, but like a new extra body if somebody needs a few plays, or he can go in there and be a fresh guy. They've rotated offensive line in the past. So it's interesting that we just, we could talk again for hours about these rosters and the crossover of how many living rooms Ryan Day and Sark have crossed paths in, trying to get these guys to commit. But we won't stay for too long. I just got to ask you one more thing, obviously. You're coming up here for Ohio State, Texas. First of all, are you excited to be back in the Horseshoe? I think I heard that you've been here before. It was a bad experience. I'm hoping that the Ohio State fans can correct that. And then also, you got to give me your final score pick before I get you out of here.
Oh man, I haven't even filled this out for our site yet, but yeah, I'm excited. I remember if you're looking at the TV angle, it was basically the bottom right open end of the Horseshoe is where I was sitting, and I know opposing fans normally, that band is right by the flagpole to the right when you're looking at that direction. So I'm excited to see it. I'll be seeing a national championship banner unveiled and a team honored, and but I'm excited to be back in one of the great places to watch a college football game, one of the great environments. And I know it's much to y'all's chagrin, but I don't mind a noon kick. Final score though. See, I don't think this is going to be all that high scoring. No matter how talented Julian Sayin and Arch Manning are, this isn't Arch's first start, but it's his first real start as the starter, and not just stepping in for 2 games against 2 teams that ended up going, I think, 7-17. So this is a real deal start for him against one of the best defenses in the country, with a wild card at defensive coordinator, but the talent's there for sure. Julian Sayin, he won the battle, I think, as a lot of people thought was going to end up, no matter how hard Lincoln Kienholz pushed him. But he's got to go up against an elite defense. And yeah, you want to get the ball to Jeremiah Smith. Yeah, but Texas limited him last year. And I know that meant good things for Emeka Egbuka and the rest of that receiving core. And of course, one play, 75 yards for Travion Henderson, but that was a really good Texas defense last year that returns a lot of pieces and is tough to get much yardage on. So I'm thinking low scoring. And the thing is, I already have said 10-2. And so I'm kind of wondering, okay, I haven't decided on those 2 yet. So do I think it's going to be, a loss to Ohio State and then they go 7-1 in conference play? You know what? I'm just going to go. I think they lose to Florida and Georgia. And I think there's enough on this Texas team to win an ugly one. I think it's one you play the under on, and it may be something like 27-24 or something real close like that, barely getting up into the high 20s and not looking pretty. A lot of field goals, but I can see Texas walking out of there 27-24, and the hype machine, it may not blow up just because it may be an ugly win, and Arch may not look the best, but the Texas hype machine may start making some moves.
I think no matter what, I think we're going to feel pretty good about both of these teams potentially getting a rematch in January after this game. And I think that's probably what's most exciting is we know that we could get a rematch, whereas in the BCS, if you lost one of these games, you're probably not getting to the national championship game because somebody else is going undefeated in a different conference. So the fact that I think we'll probably see these 2 teams again, and so we'll feel good about both of them. coming out of this thing. I got to tell you, man, I'm going to talk to you later this week, obviously, when you're in the Horseshoe. The return trip to DKR next year is going to be awesome. I've never been to Austin, and I've never been to DKR. So I can't wait for that. We'll talk about that when it comes, though. For now, we're just going to talk about number 1 versus number 3. Hey, we might get that again next year. Who knows? Number 1, Texas at number 3, Ohio State this week. Arch Manning versus Julian Sand, Ryan Day versus Steve Sarkisian. You guys know the drill by now. That's Joe Cook from Inside Texas, the best. I read them almost every day in the lead up to this. The best site covering Texas football, and it's not even close. I'm just Spencer Holbrook from Lettermen Row, talking Ohio State football like we do 365 days a year. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys tomorrow as we break down Ryan Day's press conference, and thanks to Joe for joining us. Let's welcome him to Columbus later this week.